It's time for a Dallas Stars year in review. Let's take a look back at some of my season predictions, where I was right, where I was completely wrong, because there's plenty of both, and that's next on Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105 through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. It's now time for a Dallas Stars year in review. I love doing these as we take a look back at some of my season predictions. I teased this over the last couple episodes. I wrote them all down here, and we're going to see where I was right, where I was wrong, maybe a little bit of both. And this is meant to be a bit more lighthearted. It's been very serious lately, especially with the playoffs and, of course, the emotional exit from the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Final. This is a bit more light. Let's have some fun. But there is plenty of rumors out there that we have to touch on a little bit, just so we stay up to date on some of the chaos that has ensued over the last few days with Jason Robertson, Pete DeBoer, all that good stuff. We're going to touch on some of that, but let's have some fun right off the bat. And let me know some of your season predictions that maybe went awry or maybe you nailed on the head in the comments below. So we'll get this thing started right away. And I'll go ahead and start with my overall predictions for the Central and West Division. I did it 1 through 8 in the Central. I did it 1 through 16 in the Western Conference. So you'll find out how many playoff teams I got right. Let's start with the Central Division. Let's actually start with the overall record I had for the Dallas Stars. And boy, was I pretty close. So the Dallas Stars finished the season 50-26-6 with 106 points. I predicted 50 wins, so I hit that on the head. 23 losses, so they had 3 more losses, 9 overtime losses. So I gave them 109 points, so they finished 3 points shy of my prediction, but I got the amount of wins right on the Dallas Stars record. Of course, Dallas goes 28-10-3 at home, 22-16-3. And if they didn't really have that monumental collapse in the last month of the season, they probably would have picked up a few more wins, and I would not have hit it right on the money. But I did predict Dallas to win the Central Division with those 109 points. Of course, that was not the case. Winnipeg went 56-22-4 with 116 points. I had the Jets as a 5 seed in the Central. I predicted they were going to fall off heavily. Boy, was I extremely wrong on that. Of course, they went on an incredible run this season, but I guess the Stars got the last laugh anyways. But I had the Jets finishing 5th, but they finished 1st, of course, and won the Central and the President's Trophy. My official rankings for the Central Division before the season, I had Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Utah, and Chicago. Of course, I was very high on Nashville, as many others, and that went to crap right away. But of course, the Central finished Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, Utah, Nashville, Chicago. So it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either. If you look at where each spot, the only team I got actually correct in the right position was Minnesota. And they finished 4th, and there were some others that were about a slot here or there, like Colorado had 2nd. They finished 3rd. So not very good in my overall Central predictions by any stretch. But now let's talk about the Western Conference as a whole. I went 1 through 16 actually in the entire West, and I'll go through this rather quickly, but here is how I had the Western Conference shaping out. I had Edmonton, Dallas, Vancouver, Colorado, Nashville, Vegas, Minnesota, Winnipeg. Those are my top 8. Those are my 8 playoff teams. Then it went St. Louis, Utah, LA, and I believe, what is this? Calgary, excuse me. I don't think I had the right abbreviation there. Calgary, Seattle, Chicago, Anaheim, San Jose to round out the West. So out of all the 8 playoff teams, I actually got 6 of the 8 correct. The 2 I missed were pretty giant misfires. Nashville and Vancouver, not even close to really making the postseason. Nashville finished 14th, and I was very high on them. Of course, I had Edmonton winning the West. They were 6th. But I did get 6 out of the 8 playoff teams correct. I did just miss out on St. Louis, who snuck in there. But not the worst in the world. Of course, the West finished like this: Winnipeg, Vegas, Dallas, Los Angeles, Colorado, Edmonton, Minnesota, St. Louis, Calgary, Vancouver, Utah, Anaheim, Seattle, Nashville, Chicago, and San Jose. Let's see if I got any exact positions right. I got San Jose. I don't know if that is something to brag about. I think that one was maybe more the obvious choice. I got Seattle right at 13, believe it or not. So I ended up getting that one right, and I don't think I hit any others in the top 8. Although I got quite a bit of the playoff teams. Yeah, I didn't hit anybody, unfortunately. Man, I thought Edmonton was going to have a better regular season, and well, they're proving it now. They're the best team in the West. They're representing the West in the Stanley Cup final. So there you go. There was some of my season predictions for the Central and Western Conference. Wasn't atrocious. Pretty proud that I got 50 wins right on the mark. And I only missed the Dallas point total by 3. I predicted 109 points, and they ended up finishing with 106. God, they should have finished with more than that after that final month of the season. What ended up being an 8-game losing streak, I think. All things told, not good to say the least. And obviously, the biggest misfire, Nashville. I was high on them. I know some others weren't as high, but that just completely went sideways off the hop. You know, I had Vegas regressing a bit, man. They finished second in the West. Just pretty spectacular. And I know they got beaten 5 games too by Edmonton. You know, Colorado was in the mix. I was kind of around there. I was high on Minnesota. I had them finishing 4th in the Central, which is right. I had them 7th. I actually got Minnesota right now that I look at it again. I had Minnesota finishing 7th in the West, and I was pretty high on them. I thought they easily would have been a playoff team this season, and they should have been within the top 3. They probably should have finished 2nd if it wasn't for all the injuries. I know you could say that about a lot of teams, but if you recall, they were winning the Central for a bit, and they were right up there with Minnesota. And Dallas, for a large chunk of the season, was trying to keep up with Minnesota. And then Kaprizov was gone. Erickson, the amount of injuries they dealt with was worse than what Dallas had to endure during the regular season. And they were on the outside looking in for a bit. And they ended up being the only playoff team with a negative goal differential in the Western Conference at minus 11, but they were able to kind of get it back together just before the season officially ended. And of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs began, and they gave Vegas a decent run for their money. But so I did hit the nail on Minnesota. Winnipeg, I still had making the playoffs, although I had them making a huge dip. Of course, that was completely wrong. Vancouver, I don't know why I just maybe like Vancouver for whatever reason. I had them finishing 3rd in the West. Oh, and they had so much turmoil this season. I don't know why I was a big fan of them. Also, part of it was I didn't like LA at all. And obviously they end up having a decent season. Of course, they get ousted again by Edmonton for the 3rd straight season. Maybe it's even 4. But yeah, it's deja vu, sort of like Dallas here over the last few years. But I had them dropping out to 11th, and they finished 4th. So a very interesting year in the West. Of course, the Central was so heavy, man. I mean, the Central Division was just really stacked. They ended up with 5 teams. I had 5 teams in the Central making the postseason, which was correct. I had Dallas, I had Colorado, I had Minnesota, Winnipeg, and Nashville. Of course, I missed Nashville, but 5 teams did make the playoffs out of the Central. So I'm going to take that for a win. Okay, you gotta take the wins where you can get them. Now, speaking of some predictions, where I was right, where I was wrong, I made some bold predictions ahead of this season. I recorded who's going to have the most points on the Dallas Stars, what the top 3 in point totals were going to be, and some others. I'll tell you where I was right, maybe not even at all, or where I was completely wrong. And there's a lot of those. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. The Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. I've been snacking on some Wonderful Pistachios recently. I forgot how much I love them. I've gotten a kick out of them because we've been talking about Wonderful Pistachios so much. And boy, those things are tasty. They are just so delicious and they're nutritious. That's a great thing. They're a healthy alternative. Sometimes it's hard to find snacks that aren't sugary and can make you have that sugar crash. Pistachios are really good for you. And Wonderful Pistachios makes a wonderful pistachio. So go ahead, get snacking, get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So I made some predictions on point totals, some goal totals as well for some individuals on the Dallas Stars. And I made some bold predictions heading into this season. Some things that were pretty lofty, but I was hoping maybe come true. So I want to take a peek at some of those. We'll start with a prediction where I was right, because there's not many of them, but where I was right. And I made this prediction about Liam Bichsel. I mentioned a lot coming into the season. The best news for Dallas for the Stars is Liam Bichsel becomes a steady defenseman on the Dallas Stars. Of course, he started the season in the AHL, and we all know Dallas and their back end was a little thin with Dumba and Lyubushkin. And I talked a lot about Bichsel needs to become a player for you. And I predicted that he would join the Stars at some point, maybe December, January, and be sort of that Thomas Harley from a few years ago. And yeah, that was pretty spot on in a lot of ways. He joined Dallas in December. He played to his first game against the Predators. Of course, scored in that game. Lost, unfortunately, 4-1. But he ended up playing 38 games total. And had a pretty nice playoff run for Dallas in a lot of ways. He was paired quite a bit with Alex Petrovic, and they did all right at points. They were overwhelmed against Edmonton, but is that really a big surprise in a lot of ways? Sort of taking a more bird's eye view look at things, but he had a really strong season, I thought, Bichsel. And there were some rookie moments, of course, but I think he's going to be a really, really good player for Dallas. And I think he will become at some point sort of a top 4 defenseman in Dallas. Just his size, his physicality. He still has some ways to go in terms of his offensive skills and ability to help exit out of his own zone, but a lot to love about Liam Bichsel. So I wanted to start with something that I sort of got right, just because not a ton, right? I'm trying to go out on a limb on all of these, but point totals. And over the last few seasons I've done these, I feel pretty strong about it, and then it ends up not going really anywhere close to how I predicted in a lot of ways. So I predicted the point totals for the Dallas Stars, the top 3 at least. I had Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Rope Hintz as my top 3 scores for Dallas, and I was pretty close. I got 3 out of the top 4. Of course, Matt Duchene led Dallas with 82 points this season. If Robertson maybe didn't have that surgery right before training camp and missed some time, maybe he would have found his groove, because he was one of the best scorers in the NHL from, I want to say, February on. He was among the top 5. But I had Robertson 102 points. He finished with 80. I had Johnston with 83 points. I had him a point per game. Johnston finished with 71. So it was about 11 shy or 12 shy. I had Rope Hintz with 74 points, and Rope finished with 67, so he's close. I predicted they would all score 30 goals, and I was close on that one. Rope Hintz came up shy. Hence, who missed what he missed. He missed just 6 games, but he finished with 28, and that stops a run where he had 3 straight seasons with 30 goals. So that ended that streak he had. So those are my prediction for point totals. All 30 goals for Johnston, Robo, and Rope. Rope missed out on 30, but I had Robo and Johnston in there. They were 2 of the 3, but of course Duchene snuck up in there and, of course, had a really fantastic regular season. Okay, now some of the bold predictions I made, and these were some that I really didn't expect to get any right. And I think I would have got 2 of them right, actually, if there was some circumstances out of my control that did not factor into these, and it's injuries. So the first one I made, Mason Marchment scores 30 goals. Always been a fan of Marchment, and I just thought he was going to have a pretty good season. I wanted to be bold with somebody to get 30 goals, so I ended up coming back to Marchment. So Mason Marchment I have for 30 goals, and if I think I believe in all my heart, if he didn't get hurt, he would have hit 30. He had 22 goals in 62 games, and he never really got his scoring stride back after he came back from injury. He missed, about over a month with that facial injury after taking a puck. God, the Stars had so much bad luck with all the pucks to the face this season, man. Next year, we're going to have a prediction on how many pucks are going to hit faces, and we're going to have to keep that. So Marchment missed, so he got hit in the face, I think the 27th of December. He didn't come back till February 2nd. So yeah, he missed over a month of action. But and let's see, his second stint from February 2nd on, I'm just curious to take a look at this. So when he returned to the lineup, he scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he had 10 goals from February on. So he had 10 of his, what he ended up with his total. He finished with 22. So 10 of his 22 came in the final 2 months, man. And it was that tied a career high. I think he may have not got 30, but he would have sniffed it. So unfortunately, that one sort of has an asterisk next to it. My second one was Otter leads the league in save percentage. And I sort of back that up in ways because we've seen, and I went did some research, and I did an episode on this ahead of the regular season. It seems like goaltenders in their fourth full season as the number one goaltender seem to pop off and have huge seasons. And I sort of kind of built this prediction off the back of that. And if you look at Carey Price, Marc-Andre Fleury, some others, and I know those guys are generational goaltenders, and Jake Andre is not on that level, but I thought he would pop off. He had a good season, right? Let's not get it wrong, but he finished third in save percentage, 909. So he's in the top 5, which is nothing to scoff at, but he did not lead the league in save percentage. Of course, that was Hellebuck at 925. Vasilevsky had 921, and Otter is right there at 909. So that was not correct. My third bold prediction, and at the time it was really bold, but about halfway through the season, it didn't seem that way. Nils Lundkvist plays 70-plus games. Of course, we had a lot of concerns, but questions about Nils Lundkvist and his role on the Dallas Stars. And boy, did he take big strides this season. And turned out to be quite the little player for Dallas. And I predicted 70-plus games. That seemed really bold at the time. And I think he probably would have easily cracked 70 games if he didn't get hurt with a season-ending shoulder injury. He played 39 games. And I think for the most part, it feels like a lifetime ago. He played from game 1 all the way to game 39. I don't think he was healthy scratch. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I am wrong. I think maybe he was scratched. Okay, never mind. He was scratched a few times. Okay, this is good. Sometimes you got to look back at it. So he played 39 of the 47 games for Dallas before he went down with an injury. So yeah, he was on a good pace to crack 70. So at that point, he had only missed 8 games. I think he would have got 70 plus. And he definitely would have, because of course Miro got hurt a little bit following his injury. So he would have easily cracked 70. So unfortunately, I guess we didn't get the opportunity to see that one through, but those were 3 of my bold predictions heading into the 2024-25 campaign. And of course, I guess the big one was the finish of the season. I had the Stars winning the Stanley Cup. That, of course, did not happen. So boo-hoo to me. All righty. There we go. We wrapped up some of that. Wanted to do something a bit lighter today, since we have a ton of serious topics we're going to get to this summer. And we were locked in for a couple months. So just to kind of relax and look at some of the silliness I wrote down and predicted. It's always fun to look back at some things. I'll have to do a bit more extensive predictions for next season too. Let me know in the comments if there's something I should predict, maybe something funky even that really doesn't even have to do with stats. Maybe it's pucks in the face, right? Something kind of stupid like that we can record throughout the year. Okay, the rumor mill. My goodness, there's a lot of stuff. And we're not going to deep dive into this by any means, because I want to do a full episode after I catch up on some things, because this is just all things we're hearing, and I do want to hear it from some sources, from the horse's mouth, so to speak, before I guess really have strong stances on anything. But there is a lot of things. Jason Robertson, is he on the trade block? Pete DeBoer, could his time be done? Let's talk about some of the things we're hearing on the internet verse in just a moment. Okay, so as always, after each season, there's some hot takes here and there, and there's a lot of craziness on X and Twitter. Oh, look at this. Okay, this is happening right now. There was a tweet earlier from some Stars insiders that there was some big news about the Dallas Stars upcoming. What that means, I don't know. But Kevin Weeks, as we all know, this had nothing to do what I wanted to talk about. But Weeksy, who breaks a lot of stuff, of course, he's on ESPN, broadcaster, analyst, tweeted the eyeball emojis with a picture of the American Airlines Center. And we know from a couple of days ago, maybe last week, Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, mentioned they are trying to get Dallas into a stadium series or another outdoor game. I wonder if that has anything to do with that. So maybe this will break why we're recording this. But I did want to touch on the Jason Robertson trade block stuff and some of this too. And maybe it's just people just trying to drum up some topic. And I'm here for that. I think we're going to come up with some crazy trade proposals this summer too. Sometimes you just need something to kind of throw out there, but there's this notion about maybe Robertson being traded because Dallas potentially may not be able to afford his next contract and all that stuff. I don't get it at all. I really don't. I don't know why you would try to trade Jason Robertson, who had a 100-point season. I know he hasn't lived up to that his last couple years, but in a down year, he was just under a point per game, and he scored 35 goals, and he got off to such a slow start. He's elite scorer, like a goal scorer in this league. A lot of guys would like to have seasons like Jason Robertson. I don't know why Dallas would even potentially get rid of. I'm not saying they are, but we're seeing a lot of that, and just really makes no sense to me. I would not have him on the chopping block. And he's shown the last 12 goals out of the 17 Dallas has in Western Conference Finals have come from Jason Robertson. So that right there is a bit of a head scratcher for me. So I don't really get it. And again, this could just be rumors and people just drumming up some stuff, and that's fair. Look, I'm going to drum up some stuff too. Twitter's going crazy right now, Dallas Stars Twitter. So something big's about to break. We may have to just stay on here until it does. The other one is Pete DeBoer. Elliot Freeman 32 Thoughts mentioned this. And there was also another tweet from David Pagnotta. Could have completely butchered that, but there's some noise out of Dallas is what we're saying. Pete DeBoer, per multiple sources, players are not pleased with how he handled several situations during the Western Conference Final, along with post-game 5 and exit media remarks. Told players voice concerns during internal exit interviews. DeBoer has 1 year left on his contract. So, I've been on the stance. I am not on the fire DeBoer train by any means. I'm not there. Unless you give me a viable replacement for Pete DeBoer, I'm just really not going to be on that train. I just don't think the grass is always greener. But I will say this. If these are true, some of these rumors, you're going to have to make a change, because you can't have him return if he's lost the room. And if players are upset with how he treated everything, especially the Otter situation, and this is something I should have mentioned in yesterday's episode, be sure to check that out. We broke down some of the clips from the exit interviews with DeBoer, Duchene, Otter, and Jamie Benn. DeBoer did not have a chance. DeBoer did not talk with Jake yet at that point, which is a bit interesting. And look, I don't know if that's a DeBoer thing, if that's a Jake thing, but feels like they should have had a conversation just to get ahead of some stuff before they went into those exit interviews with the media. Just felt like that would have been something they should have done to sort of clear the air between the two of each other before they went and answered questions about it. I would have liked to see Pete initiate that conversation, because it just seems like unnecessary tension, right? That didn't need to happen. And they maybe could have squashed it. We talked. He understood. Maybe I got emotional. Maybe they didn't like the way I handled, but we understand we're professionals. They didn't even have a conversation before they had those exit interviews with the media. That doesn't bode a lot. That doesn't bode very well, I feel like. And again, I'm not huge on the DeBoer fire train, but if there are players that do not like the way things were handled, and they feel like maybe some trust was broken, some relationships here and there, they have to make a switch. I feel like they have to, because then you can't go into a season with tension between a head coach and your leadership group. Like if Ben comes back, let's say Ben is one of these players that's not happy with what happened. That's just unnecessary. Then you become the Rangers in Vancouver, where there's just a lot of unnecessary noise, and Dallas shouldn't be that. Not the Dallas Stars. This isn't Toronto. Shouldn't be a lot of those distractions. So yeah, you're going to have to make a switch. And again, this may just be rumors and nothing true. I'm just reporting it since it's been thrown out there. So I am curious about that and how that maybe affects my even stance on Dallas moving forward and what they do with Pete DeBoer. So very, very, very interesting stuff there. All righty. Still nothing has broken right away about the tweets. So I may pause the episode and then come back before I end up kind of finishing it up, just to see if it breaks. Otherwise, we may keep it for next episode. But Stars fans, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, as always, for the love and support. Appreciate you joining us each and every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about some of the rumors about Robertson and Pete DeBoer as well, and even some of your predictions that maybe you got right or wrong from this past season. Enjoy your Tuesday, Stars fans, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long.